The sonnet in honor of Saint Alphonsus Rodriquez was written to commemorate Brother Rodriguez for his faithful service to the Jesuit order. He was known for his kindness, humble service, and wise spiritual direction. He had made application to join the order on several occasions, but had been turned down because of poor health and lack of formal education. Finally, at the age of 40, he was accepted into the Jesuit society as a lay brother, and he remained faithful to his service without notice all his life. Hopkins wrote this sonnet, and in writing to Robert Bridges, he stated this: "It was written in order on the occasion of first feast since the canonization proper of St. Alphonsus Rodriquez, a lay brother of the order who for 40 years acted as hall porter to the College of Palma in Majorca. He was, it is believed, much favored by God with heavenly lights and much persecuted by evil spirits. His duties included answering the door, carrying bags, delivering messages, meeting everyday needs of others, and offering advice." So I'll read through the poem, and then we'll see how Hopkins applies the form of the sonnet to his argument in praise of this brother Rodriguez. So this is how it starts. "Honor is flashed off exploit, so they say. And those strokes once that gashed fresh or gold shield should tongue that time now, trumpet now that field, and on the fighter forge his glorious day. On Christ they do, and on the martyr may. But be the war within, the brand we wield unseen, the heroic breast not outward steeled, earth hears no hurdle, then from the fiercest fray. Yet God, that hews mountains and continent, earth, all out, who with trickling increment veins violets and tall trees, makes more and more, could crowd career with conquest, while there went those years and years by of world without event, that in Majorca Alfonso watched the door." Sounds confusing. Well, in the first part, he is describing the idea that we honor those who are outstanding for their achievements that we can witness or that we can learn about outward experiences. For example, on the battlefield, honor is flashed off exploits. So exploits would be adventure, any kind of conflict that one confronts and is superior to through his courage. So in the first line, when he says, "so we say," it's almost like an axiom, that honor is flashed off exploit. So that would be what most people think. And then the second line, "and those strokes, once that gashed flesh or gold shield, should tongue that time now." So let's just stop there. He says that those exploits in which the soldier, fights with a sword and he gashes his opponent with his flesh of the opponent, and he galled the shield that he's carrying with blood. Those exploits should be recognized, so people should tongue that time, like express that time, honor that time, memorialize that time now. Okay? In other words, he repeats it: trumpet now that field that we just witnessed or we just talked about. And on the fighter, forge his glorious day. In other words, for all posterity to look back and honor this glorious day won by the soldier, and we give honor to him so that it lasts throughout history. So that's the first four lines. He seems to say that people who engage in battle and show courage, and through details such as gold flesh, gash flesh, gold shield, strokes of the sword, we should honor that. Okay? So then the second four lines of the octave goes on now to talk about Christ. On Christ they do. In other words, we honor Christ for his achievement. And on the martyr may, depending on the circumstances of the martyrdom, why the person died, we may or may not, okay? But martyrs are remembered throughout the liturgical year. We remember saints, especially those who were martyrs and gave the blood for Christ. But be the war within. Now we're talking about something different from the external battles that we can witness, but be the war within. The brand we wield unseen, the heroic breast not outward steeled, earth hears no hurdle than from the fiercest fray. In other words, from people who are battling internal issues and go about it quietly, day to day, yet going on with their battle, their anxieties, things that are tormenting them. We don't see their outward weapons, unseen, the heroic breast. In other words, it looks like an everyday person walking by, and you don't know what that person is dealing with or has been dealing with over a long period of time. There's no outward steel, his armor, his mail, the suit of armor, or his shield, his battle, his helmet, the accoutrement of a soldier in battle. These are unseen. And earth, that would be us people, do not hear the hurdle, that would be the battle. We don't hear it from the fiercest fray that individual might be confronting. So that person may, sustain worse internal turmoil than the soldier in combat from the fiercest fray that person has to deal with. And I would say that Gerard Manley Hopkins is speaking about himself here with his mental anguish that he had to confront for long periods of time. But we don't see that when you see him, visually. All right, so that's the octave. The first part talks about, battle, recognition, honor given to those who have achieved victory. Now, in the second part, this is the turn, line 9. Yet God that hews mountains in the continent, in other words, creating the whole world, mountains, lakes, valleys, everything that we see, earth all out, who with trickling increment, little by little, over long periods of time, small bits of time, veins violence. I mean, who can do that except God? Nobody. Veins violence. And creates tall trees, makes more and more. So now he's talking about the achievements of God. God that hews mountains and continent and earth, all, meaning everything, and then that word out goes with hews. Hews out the mountains and the continents with trickling increment. Here, little by little, we don't see it. It's gradual. Could crowd career with conquest while there went those years equally, like Alphonsus Rodriquez was living through this period when the seasons were coming and passing and leaving, that God was doing all his work. Here is Alphonsus Rodriquez doing his unseen work, sitting outside a door as a doorman without any recognition. All right, those years and years went by of world without event. In other words, very commonplace, nothing significant, nothing to, as we'd say, brag about, nothing to honor him, that in Majorca, Alphonsus watched the door. So the theme of the sonnet is that of being true to one's principles, regardless of one's being recognized for his dedicated service. In other words, that's not something we should do something in life for to get recognized. The dedication is more important than the honor bestowed on someone. Hopkins could relate to this theme personally, for he struggled with difficult years of teaching in places far from his beloved homeland, like he was in Ireland. He suffered from bouts of depression, bordering on madness at times. He wrote volumes of extraordinary poetry without recognition. In fact, it was 30 years after his death that his works were recognized. So he never did get any recognition for his work. And he died of typhoid in a cold and barren environment in Ireland at Trinity College at the age of 44. So he could relate to what he's talking about here when he's describing St. Alphonsus Rodriquez. The octave addresses the topic of honor and being honored for outstanding achievement, with many allusions to glory on the field of battle. We are told that honor is most often secured by those who accomplish notable deeds. It's flashed off exploit, we are told, suggesting an image of a light flashing off a shiny surface. And that might, you might extend that to like a sword hitting a shield that might be evoked here. For the next line mentions strokes gashing flesh and galling shield. So that's why I see it as like a man with in battle with a sword and shield, right? The third line suggests that the event should be trumpeted and tongued. It should be memorialized. Should tongue that time now. Those are the words he uses. So sound the event out for its honor and glory. Speak, about it for all posterity to honor it. So one might call to mind, for example, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, where he honors the fallen in battle. And line 4 says that fighters' glorious day should be forged in the honor for all eternity. The second quatrain, that would be line 5 on, all right, speaks of Christ's wounds serving as signs of his glorious day of triumph over sin and death. And on martyr may, suggesting at the same time it may be true of martyrs depending on their circumstances of martyrdom. So the remaining lines of the quatrain then shift to the battle within each of us. Hopkins says that these battles are waged unheard and unseen. The imagery suggests that no one sees the weapons we use to cope, nor hear the cries of battle when one grieves. The brand we wield is unseen. Earth hears no hurdle. Hence, one who suffers within goes unheralded. though his suffering may be greater than that of the one honored publicly as a hero. So the octave then considers the subject of honor and recognition for service that might be beyond the call of duty. The theme of the octave might be found in the line, "On the fighter forge his glorious day." In other words, glory ought to be bestowed on those worthy of the recognition. The first line in the sestet, the turn that I said, uses the word yet, so we know the counter-argument is coming here. Then follows a series of actions of God's handiwork as the architect and the craftsman hewing out the mountains, creating flowers of beautiful imagery, of placing veins within the budding violets, as well as creating tall trees. Then the idea is expanded to include earth all, suggesting the universe and all of creation in trickling increment. Those are beautiful two words, trickling increment, as for example, the gradual emergence of each returning season. One might think of the gradual breezes and the sounds of returning birds and buds in April and in May. And all of this is established with these two words, trickling increment. The sestet ends with a declarative sentence broken up with a number of modifying phrases and clauses that states this: God could crowd his career with conquest, while years and years of world went by without event for Majorca Alphonsus watching the door. The effect of this juxtaposition of events with God going about his work of sustaining all creation and his eternal providence, arranging seasons, establishing nature, crowding career with conquest year after year, while all this time poor Alfonso sat by the door. It highlights the purpose he found in life. That was his duty. That's what he wasn't a priest. He was a brother, a lay brother, and he didn't look for any recognition. He did his duty cheerfully and without complaint. And in the eyes of God, he fulfilled his mission as a hero, not seeking recognition. It is said that after his death, his writings revealed that he believed that every person who appeared at the door was another Christ, and his work was to encounter Christ in every task. So, structurally, the sonnet is the perfect form to provide Hopkins with his argument, because he begins the concept of heroism in the octave, and in the sestet he sets out to complete that same idea. So it's a perfect Petrarchan sonnet.